Uh, not on. Okay, so we're live. Cool. Thanks for waiting around. My first time using this live thing, and had a little glitch. Just learning. So all right. Okay, thanks guys. If you're tuned in and you're watching, make a comment. I got a friend of mine who's monitoring the comment section, so Michael, please let me know if you see anybody confirming that they're on and that they're seeing it live. If you'd be so kind to do a little sound check and make a comment for me, I'd appreciate it. Great. Okay, so what I was looking at before the open is looking on these shorter time frames, right? Looking on the strat method. The first thing that stands out is you do have an hourly squeeze there. And you see that quite a bit on Fridays. You know, as things wind down on Friday after the 2:30 close for the crude oil physical market, there tends to be movement of right around up to 2:30. And then it kind of just drops off. And, you know, not always, but often. It's just a real slow, boring Friday afternoon. And that's what more or less what we had. And it formed another squeeze, just very similar to what it was doing last week. And then where we're at in this range is the 15-minute. It's just, you can see it's just chopping in this range. I like to put a box around range and then just look for clues as to what's next. So since I missed, let's see, the open was actually, I didn't actually see the open, but wow, okay, so that candle right there, I guess it did a quick jig, huh? Let's see. Oh, okay, so no, it didn't gap or do anything. It just had this wild candle right here with this big wick. But you can see, just for example, on the 15-minute time frame, you can really see it. This is called time frame continuity. So just at the moment, all of these candles are red on all of these time frames. I mean, in and of itself, it doesn't mean much, you know, out of context. But if you're trading and you want to see the longer time frames, it's tricky to go against the longer time frames, especially if you're going for like a swing trade. But in this case, I'm really just doing this because it's kind of fun to watch the open together with you guys and just see what's going on right here out of the gate. So now this screen here is the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. Now the monthly, of course, has been an inside candle ever since April 1st. And it's pretty interesting how price came down right on that low to 93.81. And I had mentioned for a couple weeks now that this 93.53 level is important. Price came right down near there and has been kind of bouncing, right? You can see that here a little more clearly on the daily, right? Last week it bounced. And now you've got, on the daily, look at that, it's two inside candles on the daily. So in and of itself, that's strat folks, they like that. They like it when you get an inside candle because how that resolves gives you the first clue. And so go down one more to the 4-hour, and you can see, you know, momentum after this open, right? The price is up a bit, momentum is up a little bit here on the histo. But, you know, we're still in this range that was set up on late last week going into Friday. You know, it's just chopping in a range. So it's basically inside candles on all four of these time frames, right? So from a strat perspective, this is interesting. So hold that in mind. Inside candles on all of these time frames down to the 4-hour. So now let's go down And here's the same 4-hour again on this panel. Just I like to keep the 4-hour on both panels because, to my way of thinking, that's an important chart. It gives good clues. Okay, so on the 1-hour, you've got a big outside candle. So that's what, that's just basically where we're at right now with this range at the open. It kind of popped up, and at some point it came down to there, but then it made it all the way back up to here. So it's just kind of spazzed out at the open. So you got a 3 candle on the 1-hour, you got a 3 candle on the 15, and the 5 minutes rather inconsequential, unless I'm looking for an entry. So at the moment, what I like to do in my trading, well, the first clue, check this out. Now, I have a bias for this to go lower. I said the same thing last Sunday, and it went lower initially, and then it flipped around, and you had a couple of days of a bounce. And at the moment, you've got a lot of mixed messages, but if I flip over to Elliott Wave just real quickly right here, I've changed this chart so many times. There's a lot of uncertainty. Elliott Wave, it's very subjective. It depends how you count it. But what I'm thinking is if this doesn't get back above this pivot, then I think it can give us one more low. And I think a more significant level to watch is this purple area. If it gets above 103, that's the 618 of this move down. So this bounce that we're currently in, if that keeps going, if it gets above the 618, well, now you've got something else is going on here. But so ideally, wouldn't it be great if the market just gave us ideal scenarios? But if this region holds on this bounce and then it can give up a micro 1-2 on the way down for a 5th wave, basically a 5 of 5. Because the way I've been counting this, from the very first time this dropped down, I put those measurements on there, and this is where they project to. And I don't want to talk too much about Elliott Wave because the Elliott Wave experts, if you're in at EWT, ElliottWaveTrader.net, you've got the best Elliott Wave guys on planet Earth. So I'm just kind of a wave slapper, but I did put this measurement on there initially, which means I put these blue fibs on there initially back at the end of March. And, now it just depends on how you want to count it. I don't want to get too into the weeds of the Elliott Wave because I think for how I'm doing my trades, keep one eyeball on the Elliott Wave, but it's really the strat and the squeeze method that allow me to have a more confidence in the Elliott Wave count. So at the moment, this is kind of another sleeper, right? You had that initial shakeout right at the open. I didn't actually see this happen, so I'm not sure. I guess it opened. So I guess it opened up here, and then came all the way down, and then all the way back up, and then now it's just continuing to chop in the range. So yeah, it's not very exciting. So basically, I don't have a whole lot to add here other than, it's obvious that 3 candle, that's the first clue on the 15. And it's probably the same exact size. Let's see, the top of that is 98.52 to 97. 98.52, 97.33. Yeah. So here's what I like to do. This is the same candle on the 5-minute and the 15-minute. So what I like to do is put a box around it, move it over, and that'll be kind of like that's the first thing to look at as to which way that box gets broken. And given how this market is just, there's not a lot of action right here. It's just sleepy still. So, whereas like compared to last week's open, it just opened and totally dropped. So that's it. You got time frame continuity to be bearish. So, and if you wanted to be bearish, like let's say you wanted to, now I'm not going to trade this right here, right now. You know, that inside candle, you know, one of the hallmarks of an inside candle on any time frame is to be aware of chop. Especially, you know, you get a 3, which is basically a range expansion candle. So I know I'm talking minutia here, but if you're a futures trader, you know, you're used to dealing in minutia, and you have to be very exact. So on the 1 hour, that's the range. It's the same range on the 15-minute and the 5-minute. So a 3 candle is basically a range expansion candle. And I always interpret that as what it's trying to do is trying to stop out folks. It's just trying to to disrupt folks. The outside candle, it's a range expansion candle. So there's no trend, but what comes next could be a trend. That's why a 3 followed by a 1 is a decent clue. Now, I like to see that more on the longer time frames. So what you do have, though, on the 4 hour is you do have this range from Friday's candle, the last 4 hour candle on Friday. And that's what this larger range is, which I still have on all time frames. So you on the 4 hour, you do have a good clue, and that is if this comes up and breaks the top of that, then you know this is a 2-1-2 bullish continuation on the 4 hour. And then, as I was just saying, if you flip over to Elliott wave, what does that mean? Well, if this breaks the top of this range, which is what I was just showing you. Now, this is a 144 chart, but that top right across there is the same top I was just showing you in the strat over here at 98.76. Yep, right there. So, you know, if this wants to come up, I mean, I certainly wouldn't long it because I still have a bias to the downside, but I'm not, it can certainly come up. It sure can. And at that point, I'll just be watching it. If it does come up, you know, it would make this a 3-1-2 bullish move on the 15-minute. But on the 4 hour, it's more meaningful. If that comes up, it's the same level. Well, actually, it's not the same level. Sorry. The 4 hour, the top of Fridays is the top of this overall range, which is further up here at 98.76. Yeah. So, but it can break out of this range on the 15-minute by just coming up to 98.52. But you can see at the moment, it's kind of drifting back down. So I didn't get a chance to tell you if I were going to be scalping short, the entry on a 5-minute chart, you just had an entry. But it's a word of caution when you got an inside candle, especially when you have this many inside candles. It's telling you that it can chop. That's what inside candles are about, especially when it's preceded by a range expansion candle. So now there aren't any range expansion candles on these longer time frames. But you know, the daily is pretty telling. You've just got 2 days inside of this range. And actually, you know what? I might as well move that down. So that box is including the wick. So this is the entire range on Thursday and Friday. This purple box encompasses the entire range. And you come down on the lower time frames, got a slightly tighter range to play with. So, yep, there's nothing really exciting happening here. So, you know, you do see some mixed messages. Like the 4 hour, you got some momentum coming up on the 4 hour. But the 1 hour is just squeezing. And this, I mean, if you have a bias, the squeezes are really good things to pay attention to. For sure. And the 1 hour, as I mentioned in the most recent video I did, which showed you how I got shaken out of my short position in the first place, was the 1 hour squeeze fired long, and it did produce this 5-wave structure, which was good for, you know, depending on where your entry was. I mean, conservatively, it was good for $3.50 long scalp. If you had been using Strat and watching the squeeze, that was good for $3.50. So here we are another Sunday with a similar setup with a 1 hour squeeze. But the difference is we're already up here in the range. So we are already, I mean, the range that I'm defining per a combination of things. But in terms of Elliott wave, this is, if you're going to call this a wave 4 of this degree, you don't want to see it get above the bottom of wave 1, right? And that's an Elliott wave, kind of a standard thought. So the bottom of wave 1 comes in at 99.88. So, if this thing goes up $2 from here, it still could be a wave 4. But this is very nano, which makes it somewhat unreliable. So, just because if this does break that level and gets up here, does that mean I'm going to sell everything and just go long crude? Absolutely not. But if it keeps coming, that is possible. But one great clue for that would be, if it's going to keep coming, the first thing it has to do is break this range. And then I would be paying attention to this squeeze on the 1 hour. If it does break out of this range to the top side, I'm going to want to know, what is this squeeze doing? And, the 4 hour, the momentum, it could certainly keep coming up. You see here the 15-minute, which is, it's just kind of noisy. You already got that squeeze on Friday. It was kind of lackluster. It's just a 15-minute chart. But it's coming down. It's lost some of that momentum. And, this is just chopping in a range. So I really don't have much else to say. I'll leave you with this, if you're still, for whoever's watching. Watch the 1 hour squeeze. Watch this range on the lower time frames. And just be aware that we could be in for more chop. It wouldn't be the first time that a nice looking squeeze like this fizzles out. Squeezes do that. It can fizzle out. It can blink on and off. But if this thing starts, whichever direction it breaks out of this range, my sense and my experience is that this squeeze is going to fire when that is making its move. And if it does, one thing that I like to do is kind of wait for it to bounce. Like, let's say it fires short, is wait for some kind of a bounce, because it'll definitely bounce even if it fires short. I mean, you might get a couple of big candles whichever direction it first goes in. But then if it reverses, it's easier to show you rather than try to tell you. But I already did that in that other video where I was showing you the squeeze fired long last Sunday, the 1 hour squeeze, but then it came back. Well, that's where you want to get long, is after it comes back. And you can use the 5-minute and the 15-minute to sort of dial in a strat entry once it's come back. Or if you just go long and have a wide stop. I prefer to be more exacting, though, if I'm scalping. So anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thanks for watching. And soon this video will get turned into a actual recorded video, and the same link will survive so you can watch. Thanks a lot, guys. I don't see any comments. My buddy Michael's monitoring. You see any comments or questions coming through there, Michael? Okay. All right, guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.